Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and will this Nikon D5 be the last DSLR I ever own? Now, before I answer that question, let's take a journey back in time to see how I got here to this camera. The very first SLR I owned when I was 13 was the Canon EOS Elan IIe. Now, I knew nothing about cameras, I knew nothing about brands, and this was the camera that the guy at the store sold me. A few years later, I was sold my first Nikon, an N90S. Oh, by the way, does anybody out there know how many focusing points that camera had? Because I'm pretty sure that it only had one. After the N90S, I saved enough money to buy what became my last film camera, the Nikon F5. The F5 was one of the greatest SLR cameras ever made and became the last SLR for many professional photographers. Nikon did end up coming out with an F6 in 2004, but by that time, most photographers had already made the transition to digital. My transition to digital took a little bit of time for a specific reason. The D1, D1X, and D1H all were too expensive and didn't meet the one requirement I set, that it matched the 8 frames per second of my F5. Then in the summer of 2003, Nikon released the D2H, a 4.1 megapixel DSLR that shot 8 frames per second. With the help of my grandmother Lil, I placed the order at Allen's Camera, and soon my first DSLR came home. Now, I credit that camera with saving my photography career. See, for about a year before I went digital, I lost the desire to be a photographer. It wasn't fun anymore. It felt monotonous, it felt stale, it felt boring, and I felt like maybe it was time to move on to something else. Well, thankfully, once I started using the D2H, the fun rushed back in. Now, I know it sounds basic now, but for the first time, I could take a picture and see the results instantly. No longer did I need to wait hours, days, or weeks to develop a roll to see everything was out of focus or exposed wrong. On top of that, I was too lazy to write down my settings, so there was no way to learn from my mistakes. But when digital came along, I shot everything. I experimented, I learned, I grew, I got excited about capturing images again. After the D2H and over the next 15 plus years, I went to the D2X, the D2XS, D3, D3S, D4, D4S, and finally the D5. Now, before anyone out there leaves a comment saying that I must have been rich to be able to afford all of those cameras, I wasn't. I was a working professional who smartly dumped each model as soon as the new one was released so I could afford the new one. Think about it. You pay roughly $6,000 for a new professional camera. You can sell that camera 2 years later for roughly $4,000, meaning it only costs you $2,000 to get the latest and greatest camera. The longer you sit on an older camera, the more value it loses. Plus, as a working professional, I was making money off of these cameras. Now, here we are in 2019. Is the D5 the last DSLR or maybe the last Nikon Pro camera I'll ever own? As of now, I think the answer is yes to my last DSLR, but not sure yet as to my last Nikon. How could a DSLR possibly give me what I'm after today and what I mostly find in mirrorless cameras? Mirrorless cameras on the market give me the ability to see my exposure right in the EVF. I don't need to chimp, I don't need to worry that my meter is giving me a false reading. I simply look at what's in front of my face and I tweak it as needed. I no longer am limited to focus points that are clumped in the middle of the frame. With mirrorless, my focusing points can touch the edges. And in the future, focusing points are going to be less and less important as technology continues to evolve with autofocus. I can shoot silent without losing any features or quality. See, I don't think Nikon or Canon can put out a Pro DSLR that will check all of the important boxes for me. Can they make a hybrid DSLR/mirrorless camera? Maybe. If they could, the bigger question is, should they? Wouldn't I spend most of my time shooting mirrorlessly anyway? Just like when I waited for the right features to transition from film to digital back in 2003, I'm again at a crossroads. I want a Pro mirrorless camera that surpasses what I could do with my Pro DSLR. Now, Nikon and Canon haven't given us a Pro mirrorless camera just yet. They've certainly checked many of the boxes with their consumer mirrorless cameras, But they haven't given me the camera that can shoot 12 to 14 frames per second silently with professional build quality, with 2 card slots and a grip, with all of the benefits of mirrorless cameras, from an amazing EVF to IAF to full-time focus tracking that rarely misses, and all the awesome video features. When they can do that, stick a fork in the DSLR, because it's going to be dead to me and many of you guys out there. I guess what I want is pretty close to what Sony already has with the A9. A camera that can shoot 12 frames a second in 14-bit RAW or 20 frames a second in 12-bit RAW. A camera that almost never misses autofocus, has game-changing IAF, 2 card slots, vertical grip, and solid video features. Is the A9 perfect? No. But will the A9 II be better? Probably, if they change up the body design and make it feel like a real camera. Will it be 5 years ahead of Nikon and Canon? Yeah, probably. Will the D5 be the last professional Nikon I ever own? It's certainly possible, and I may even end up switching systems one day. For now, being that I own a ton of PRO Nikon glass for both DSLRs and their new Z system, I'm holding out hope. I'm holding out hope that they can surprise me once again and give me what I'm looking for. We all know at the end of the day, it's all about the right tool that allows me to easily capture the images I want to capture. If that means leaving Nikon for someone else, so be it. Now, in closing, will there ever be a perfect camera? No, but there certainly will be better choices. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Feel free to share your thoughts down below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel just yet, please go ahead and do so. And don't forget to hit that bell button so you never miss another video. And there you have it, Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.